Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, certain COVID-19 protection measures were extended as they relate to MGL's 30A, Section 20 of the Open Meeting Law. This meeting of the City of Westfield Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation. Specific information can be found on the City of Westfield website at www.cityofwestfield.org. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen to the meeting may do so by tuning into Channel 15 or Channel 12 or online at westfieldtv.org or online at youtube.com/Westfield Community Programming Channel. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we're unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the city's website an audio recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Okay. First item is roll call. So Carl.
Yes, here.
Jim.
Here.
Bob.
Yes, here.
Okay. Tom.
Yes, present.
Alex.
Yes, present.
Okay. I don't see Cliff. Maybe he'll join us later. Okay, item 2, open participation. Any members of the public who would like to address the commission on any item not on the agenda?
Hello, Mary Babinski.
Yes, Mary.
Hi, I want to address something that's going to be on the agenda later. So you want me to wait till then or just say something now?
No, wait till later, please.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Same thing for me.
Pardon?
This is Connie Adams, 354 Root Road. According to a conversation I had with Meredith earlier, I'm going to speak on items 6B.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, item 3, public hearings. 898 Southampton Road, Heritage Residents Association. Meredith.
Oops. Hi, everyone.
Welcome.
Hey, Meredith.
Good to see everyone.
Good. Is Mr. White here?
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Oh, good. I guess you've presented some new plans to Meredith.
Yes, sir.
You want to bring the commission up to date?
It would be my pleasure. First off, I'd like to thank the commission all for your time this evening and your patience while we worked with our client and as well as with Meredith to resolve some of the items that were raised with the initial DEP file number for this project, as well as from the discussion that we had during our first public hearing and subsequent site visit. So with that, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'll share my screen, and I've got a colored presentation drawing that will help me identify the proposed changes, as well as provide some background as to the nature of those and why we've proposed what we have.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Actually, before I do that, okay. Is that drawing visible for you all?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So let me zoom out a little further here. So again, just to orient everyone to the site here, this is the Heritage Residents Association mobile home park on Southampton Road. To the far right-hand side of our screen is Southampton Road, along with the parking area that serves the main roads into the park itself. Bisecting the property in blue here is Arm Brook, and you'll see 2 lines on each side of the east and west side of that, which identify the inner and outer riparian zone under the Wetlands Protection Act associated with that. And you may recall during our last presentation there, one of the biggest questions that was raised with respect to the proposed stormwater management best management practices. The original application had called for a number of rain gardens in the areas that you see colored in red here. And the thought process behind that was we were looking for best management practices that would help us to promote infiltration into the ground, provide some total suspended solids removal while also providing some natural vegetation. The concern that we had was just based on the very limited space on the property between the roads, the existing units, and the lack of open space there was providing proper total suspended solids removal prior to the use of a rain garden. I believe that was one of the questions that Mark Stinson had. When we had the opportunity to walk the property, I believe it was Commissioner Sharp, Meredith, and Jeremy Siegel from the city engineer's office had an opportunity to review these areas in more detail and saw certainly the need for providing additional stormwater, both under Wetlands Protection Act as well as the city's stormwater ordinance, and to make the effort to provide the best system that we could that would comply with the stormwater management standards to the maximum extent practical. So what we have proposed to do is actually convert a number of what were going to be rain gardens to sediment forebays. Many times when you'll see a stormwater treatment train, you'll have either a deep sump catch basin, potentially a proprietary storm scepter, or a sediment forebay, and that's really intended to handle the kind of the first flush of rainfall, get the major sediment out before it goes on to a detention pond, rain garden, whatever that may be. So in this case here, we felt that in order to provide a BMP that would comply with those standards, we've identified those to be sediment forebays. I'm going to use the highlight function now, if I may. This is going to help identify one of the issues that we've had was just, again, relatively flat topography throughout the property. So the ability to capture and collect stormwater through a series of deep sump catch basins and culverts, we really don't have enough elevation to make that work, and also basically have the culverts daylight to grade. They would have to go directly into Armbrook, which is a situation we'd like to avoid. So to help us better ensure that we have surface water flow for the main roads coming off of Southampton Road from east towards the west, the road Southampton Road is the high point, Armbrook is the low point. So what we have proposed is in this area that I'm highlighting right now, we have a vegetated swale. So essentially all the runoff that comes from this first U-shape of road will be directed towards this sediment forebay, which will again allow water to have sediments settle out. And then during a peak flow, will overflow at that point directly into Armbrook. The second forebay that we have just south of that, we have a fair amount of area that we're looking to manage. This U-shaped road, as well as kind of a broken up asphalt area where there's currently the mailbox and the solid waste and recycling bins. So what we've done, again, with the inability to put in deep sump catch basins, we've proposed to pave essentially a speed bump right here where my highlighter is here. That's going to be a raised asphalt berm. So when we have our first inch of rainfall, that first amount of sheet flow, everything that comes from this area will be able to be drained and then directed by the berm being raised above the typical road surface over towards this sediment forebay. Really going to be the best way for us to capture as much of that road area as we could and direct that off to an area that's currently maintained lawn. And in my discussion with Meredith this morning, we went back and forth certainly as it relates to the initial concept of going for rain gardens and natural vegetation, as well as the need to comply with what the design standards are under the stormwater manual. So what we've proposed to do is to plant the forebays themselves with a New England wetland plant seed mix. There's a number of different varieties that are available through them that are all favorable here, but our thoughts were that would provide an improvement from maintained lawn, certainly in the closest proximity to in the riparian zone closest to Armbrook, but would also allow more wildflowers and other more natural vegetation to flourish. And then in between the sediment forebays, we've got some shrubs that we're proposing, either dogwoods or viburnums, or some sort of blueberry or winterberry, just again to provide more of a natural buffer and have that be contiguous from essentially where the road is about to cross Armbrook, all the way heading to the north here. And finally, to better help demarcate that area to understand, and that is to be protected, not to be mowed, not to be walked through, we've proposed to put a split rail fence right along the east side of that forebay and that planting area. The thought being we're trying to, unfortunately in this case, this is really the only relatively flat open space that's available for the residents here. So we certainly wanted to leave enough room for kids to play or have some sort of open space for recreational use here while still providing an improvement within the riverfront area. As we cross Armbrook here, again, during our site walk, one of the biggest items that we noticed is as we just crossed the bridge, you have As we go from Armbrook to the west, the topography raises again in elevation. So we start climbing as we make our way west. And we do have a fair amount of runoff that comes from this road network directly towards Armbrook. So similar to what we did on the east side. On the west side, we proposed another paved raised berm here. So that's going to allow us to capture a great deal of this road runoff. And then with surface grading, we've identified spot grades and flow arrows to show that this water will be diverted to a sediment forebay over on the south side of the property itself. The initial rain garden that we had proposed here, there was some mature trees that were going to be removed in order to accommodate that. During our site walk, we saw there was some good value for the riverfront area in maintaining those trees. So we have modified the forebay to ensure that we are not going to damage the root zone of those trees. So that's what you see in this red hatch. What you see here in yellow is actually an area that the neighbors, this unit owner, has already replanted as grass that was disturbed. And what you see here in orange is what we plan to do is going to be, it's an existing lawn area right now. What we've proposed to do is to plant that area with a New England wetland plant mix. We'll probably do a shade mix in that area since obviously trees are remaining and will not have the same sun as the open lawn. But the thought being that still certainly within the riverfront area that would represent an improvement from existing conditions. So we're proposing that the remaining area that will not be sediment forebay would be planted with New England wetland plant seed mix. We do have a few areas throughout the park that we've identified here in yellow that are existing degraded areas, either asphalt or gravel, that we're proposing to trying to even off with the paving work and actually restore that to lawn. So again, trying to in areas where we can, certainly we don't want to reduce the ability for emergency vehicles to get through the property here, but we have locations where it's degraded in the riverfront area that we thought we could restore that to lawn. And again, in an effort to represent an improvement from existing conditions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions from the commission?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yes, can we ask Brent, please, to review the technology of the forebay for everybody?
Sure, and thank you for the question. The benefit of the forebay, it's a very simple process. So you'll have sheet flow that enters that over grade, and then it's a depressed area that would allow, as water builds up, enough detention time so that sediment itself, being heavier than water, will settle out, and then the water can overflow. The real benefit for the forebay in this instance is it can easily be maintained frankly, with a shovel and a wheelbarrow. It's not an elaborate best management practice where we need a vac truck or a specialty license in order to work within it here. It's an area, and in this case, going with the New England wetland plant mix, in our view, will actually, there's less chance for that to be damaged as a forebay than there would be as a rain garden, where we would have more mature shrubs that would potentially be impacted by the removal of sediments and mulch in order to clean those out on a periodic basis.
What is the depth of it, by the way?
I believe we call for 18 inches of maximum depth.
Okay. And is it staggered, each bay?
I'm sorry, it kind of broke up as you were asking. Were you saying, are they staggered?
Yes.
So what we've tried to do is we've tried to place the forebays in an area where we know we could direct the surface runoff from it. So in this case, in this location here, we have a low point in the road, and that the water would continue to drain directly towards the forebay as we laid it out here based upon existing grades. We don't have to reshape this road in order to pitch the water here. So that's where we've selected all of these to go in areas where the existing road grade and the existing topography lends the water to sheet in that general direction. The one thing I will note, on the northwest corner here, obviously, we do have a relatively small-sized forebay here. And really the reason for that is we're certainly limited by our property boundary is just to the north of that. But we also have a mature tree line in that area. So again, in the thought process of we would rather preserve mature trees rather than cut them for a stormwater best management practice, we tried to maximize what we could in this space while not taking away from this homeowner's property that they have that's a part of their rental, while still representing an improvement from what drains there currently.
Okay, and just a couple more questions, please. So I'm guessing then these will perk sufficiently to not act as a retention basin, but rather a detention series?
That is correct. And one of the information, some of the information that I submitted back in July was one of the things that I want to say take for granted, but one of the things that is our benefit to this site is it's a very, very well draining soil in this area here. So it will certainly have the ability to retain water during a peak flow, but it's not going to be a situation where these are going to be full of water constantly and a nuisance from mosquitoes or things to that effect. So we do believe that they will have the ability to drain, but they will, during an immediate rain event, they will have the ability to attenuate the water so that the sediment can actually settle out.
Okay, thank you for your responses.
My pleasure.
Any other questions from the commission?
Yeah. Hey, Brent. Hi, Tom Sharp here. The 4 bays you're talking about, they'll be planted. Is that correct?
We're planting, rather than just planting those with grass, we're proposing to plant those with New England wetland plant seed mix. So it would have the ability to grow more mature vegetation than just grass itself here. And one of the items that Meredith and I discussed that you may, once you close your public hearing, want to discuss is it's not our intention that these would be maintained, like I said, as a maintained lawn cut every week here. I think we like to request the ability to cut them back once or twice a year with a string trimmer, just so they don't become nuisance vegetation or overgrown here, but that the seed mix itself would be a better compromise between the initial proposal of the rain garden and just a pure typical fescue or bluegrass grass seed.
And then you're planning to do what other capital improvements are you planning? Are you going to resurface the roads?
That is correct. So the nature of why this needs to go to the city under the stormwater ordinance is ultimately the Heritage the Association purchased the property just over a year or so ago here, and they purchased that with a fair amount of due diligence done. One of which identifying that the water lines throughout the property are in very, very poor condition. They deal with a number of breaks. So the thought was we would come in and replace the water lines, which actually would fall as an exempt activity under the Wetlands Protection Act. And actually the resurfacing of the roads, if that work were just being done in a vacuum under the Wetlands Protection Act, it's possible that the work could be done in a way where it would qualify as an exempt activity. In this case here, because we need to alter areas that are currently lawn in order to provide the additional stormwater management, that is the reason that we need to file for a notice of intent under the Wetlands Protection Act. And because of our overall disturbance of resurfacing the roadway is why we trigger the requirement for a stormwater permit. In my view, the end result of this is first we'll come in, we'll repair all the water lines, get all brand new water services to each unit, know that they're watertight, know that we don't have any issues with that. Thankfully, the sewer system was found to be in much better condition than the domestic water supply. And then finally, once that work is done and once we've done the grading to allow the surface grades to allow our stormwater management system to function, we plan to repave all the existing roads in their current condition. And our goal would be that with a smooth paved surface now brand new will actually result in less sedimentation into our best management practices as well as Arm Brook, rather than having areas of broken up asphalt throughout the park as we saw during our site visit. And currently there is absolutely no stormwater management at all. So what we're proposing is certainly an improvement from that, and are also along with that by doing the native plantings between the 2 4 bays on the east side and fencing that area off. We're really hoping that we're providing more so on the east side a more protective buffer than what exists currently. On the west side, there's already some mature vegetation between the units and Arm Brook that serve as that natural buffer.
Yeah. Thank you for the speed bump. Thank you for putting some kind of deterrent in the middle of that one street that to divert the water. I think that was maybe Jeremy's idea. It might have been Meredith's idea, but I'm glad you incorporated it.
No, in my view, we looked at, again, in a perfect world, I'd rather have a deep sump catch basin out there. It's easier to clean out and possibly retain more sediment before it would even hit a 4 bay. But in this case, just the elevations to where, and one other just point to raise because it's relevant throughout the park here is even if we were to propose deep sump catch basins with how high the culvert would need to be in the structure, it would be essentially just below the grade itself. In the middle of July, yes, you would have a 5 or 6 foot sump that would actually provide even more sediment removal. The issue we would run into is that water level would remain so high in that structure that it would just be susceptible to freezing. So from this time of year through the end of March, April, you would be dealing with a situation where you'd almost be promoting more ice than you have currently. So with the repaving as well as the water bar there, it seemed to us the best way to capture as much of that road and divert it away from going directly into Armbrook. And we're also hoping at the end of this that will protect the life of the bridge even more, having as much water from both the east and west side being diverted away from that area.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Brent. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Other questions?
I just have a quick question. Is there going to be a maintenance plan with that proposed system that you're going to install? Is someone going to maintain it or
Yes, sir.
periodically check on it? Okay.
That is correct. We plan to work with the maintenance company for the property to understand what. And again, the benefit of this system is it's very low maintenance. It doesn't require specialty contractors or heavy equipment in order to maintain it, which by default we believe we have more confidence we'll have the ability for the association to maintain that long term.
Thank you.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Any additional comments, Meredith?
Hi, thank you. I just have one question about erosion controls, and then Brent, for sediment basin, I think it's our 4bay E and F. How is the water going to get into there? Like, I don't see the berms directing water from the west side. Does the topography naturally slope that way?
It does.
Okay.
And
berms not necessary.
That's exactly right. And if I zoom in a little further here, we are proposing a stake silt fence and straw wattle. So that what you see there with the SSW, those are the erosion control barriers that we have proposing. So we'll have Armbrook protected on both the east and west side from any disturbed activities. As I mentioned, if we were just simply replacing the water line and the repaving of the roadway, so long as any open trenches would be closed within 3 days, that would be an exempt activity. However, we recognize that this is going to be heavy site construction ongoing for quite some time. So we wanted to ensure that from essentially the end of this unit here, any spoils that would be susceptible to runoff are protected by the Armbrook, is protected by staked silt fence and wattles on each side of the road, on each side of Armbrook.
Okay, great. Yeah, I couldn't see that before.
It's difficult to see when it's on a full-size sheet like that, but hope that clarifies.
Yeah, and I think as far as, I was trying to review the plans you sent this afternoon, and I was having a hard time seeing the call-outs on the water bars versus, I don't know. So maybe it was just like it needs to be turned on in CAD or something. I don't know, but just make sure when you send us the final, everything's.
Sure. So I'm using this sheet for the presentation just because it shows the entire property. If you go into the full set that I sent earlier, we have blown up views throughout the park, and we do call those out in greater detail along with the spot elevations that show what needs to happen in order for the water to flow in the way that we've prescribed it.
Okie doke. Thank you.
Brent,
What kind of green are you adding to this complex? Are you doing some shrubs or are you doing some trees?
Yes, so we're proposing this green area that you see as I'm circling right now. So that's an existing maintained lawn area that's going to be planted with approximately 15 shrubs. And then we're also, for this entire area that is currently maintained lawn that I'm highlighting, that's existing maintained lawn that's going to be planted with New England wetland plant flowering mix, as well as over on the west side, we have an area that's currently just lawn underneath a set of mature trees that's also going to be replanted with the seed mix itself to have something more than just maintain lawn.
And that's where you mentioned perhaps the kids might play?
The kids were actually we think will play. Really, this is the one area for the kids to play that I'm circling in red right now. So that's why we use the fence to try and cordon that off so they're not migrating their way in that area. Over on the west side that you see that's colored here in orange that I'm circling now, that's an area that's it's existing lawn where we don't think the kids play as much. And that we thought would be another improvement would be to plant that area with the New England wetland plant flowering mix to provide more natural vegetation than just lawn under trees.
Will you be making improvements to the one kid play area that remains?
We're doing so by proposing the sediment 4 bays with the New England wetland plant mix, protecting it with a fence, and planting some additional shrubs in the areas that we don't have a sediment forebay.
But will you also improve the area where the kids might play? I mean, will that be resurfaced? Will that be replanted?
We're intending for that just to remain as existing lawn as it is now. We're not intending to disturb that with construction.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure. That's the benefit of the water bar being where it is that we don't have to disrupt that entire area in order to direct water to the forebay.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the commission?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the audience concerning this particular project? Seeing none. Okay. Entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor? And Brent, you can stop sharing right now.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, Carl,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Tom.
Yep.
And I'll vote yes as well. Thank you.
For your time, have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Meredith, want to put up the conditions?
Sure. Hold on. Can you see that?
Yes.
Mhm.
David, before we jump into that, do we want to hear from our engineering department before we, I mean, this has been, I don't know, I should have asked Brett what his time frame is, but I'm always more comfortable, especially since we know they made a site visit out there. So I just, this has been hanging on and we've had it on our agenda for months now, right? I'm not
Yes.
sure that 2 more weeks would throw a wrench in the works.
Seems like from our notes, Tom, that engineering needs to still approve the city stormwater permit, which Jeremy would at that point make any adjustments he felt were necessary. He's typically in line in both reviews with the outcome. I don't know if David
So
or Meredith can comment on that note.
We can make that a condition of the approval.
Is that correct, Meredith, though?
Yeah, the thought was, Jeremy didn't have time to look at this before the meeting this evening. He did do the site visit with us, and actually his comments were incorporated into the changes. So he didn't have a chance to review that, but he will be reviewing it when they file with the for the stormwater permit, the city stormwater permit. And because I forget what triggers it, if it's over 40,000 square feet of disturbance they have to file. So anyways, yeah, he will be reviewing it for that second permit. So I was thinking, yeah, we can condition the border to say that needs to be done, or we can continue, I guess. It's up to you guys.
Mr. Chairman, I don't want to speak out of turn with the hearing closed, but may I just respond to that?
I'm sorry you can't.
Okay, thank
It's
you.
been closed.
I think the applicant, this has been on the agenda since July. We did the site visit in July. I think there was some hope that it would get closed tonight so the order can go out on a bid document and get things moving. Obviously I don't think they're going to get going on things till the spring. But this isn't like a new project where Jeremy would really need to review the calculations. He might, if they do file calcs under the city stormwater permit, but I don't envision major issues on his end, considering he did look at it back in July with us.
I guess I'd just say too, fair comment, Tom, but timing wise, we just closed the hearing. So it's not like we can deliberate anymore based on any comment by Jeremy. I know we still have conditions to set, but we wouldn't necessarily have discussion at this point. So, we probably just need to require that permit be, the conditions under that permit or the approval under that permit is part of our approval.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. I'm more comfortable with it. What's telling for me is Meredith's comments on the cheat sheet that she sends out to us, that anything they do here is going to be a major improvement to the to what's been going on there for years, probably.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm ready to rock.
Okay, thank you. Okay, where are we? Okay, prior to the construction. Yeah, we need a SWIP.
Oh, Brent can't talk because I can't remember what's the square footage. It's over an acre of disturbance. Can Brent shake his hand? Yes or no? Shake his head? Yes or no? It's going to be, okay, so we need a SWIP. They'll do a SWIP.
Okay, great. All right, 51, de-recording, yes. DEP sign, yes. De-restriction language, yes.
Okay. Oops. Well, you always go so fast. Let me try
I'm
to catch
sorry.
up. Oh, that's okay. That's good. We all want to get this done.
54, no. 55, yes. 56, yes. 57, yes. 58, yes.
Mhm. Oh. Oops.
All right.
Let me go back to 59
Yep.
for you.
59, erosion controls, yes.
Mhm.
And they're on the plan. Yes, 60, pre-construction meeting, yes.
Yep.
Emergency contact information, yes. 40-hour notice, yes. There's no Title V,
Right.
no water quality cert,
Right.
no markers. Okay, so no signage.
Well, did we want signs? I mean, they're going to do one split rail fence. I didn't know if we wanted to have sort of signs saying they're not detention basins, but stormwater management areas that only should be mown once or twice a year. Something like that for each one, maybe.
Okay, let's do that.
I'd be happy designating them stormwater management areas, but I'd probably defer to the approval, that the BMP is going to be tucked into the stormwater permit. So I don't know as we'd want to say, a recurrence interval for mowing right on the sign. That's going to be governed by the stormwater standards.
And I'd like to echo Alex. I can agree with a sign that says, for, this basin's is stormwater management or something like that, whatever you come up with, Meredith. But I don't think we need to say, X mowings per year. That should be in the maintenance plan.
Okay, yeah, that's a good thing. Okay, so just stormwater management area and then like one per area, one per forebay or something?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
That'll do it. Yeah.
Sure. All
Okay.
right, so yes for
Great.
66. All right.
Storage.
There's no comp storage.
Right.
Okay. There's no temporary basins.
Oh, no.
There's no any trees coming out.
I don't think so. We'll circle that one just in case, but I don't.
Okay.
I don't think there are.
All right, 70, yes.
Yes.
71,
Yes.
probably yes, because it's so close to the brook.
Right. And right. A yes, a no salt sign. We want.
Right.
Yeah.
Probably 72, yes.
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 73, well, not really bothering with the brook.
Right. Yeah. It's not really applicable.
Okay. 74, yes. 75, yes.
Yeah.
76, yes.
Okay.
78, yes. 79, there's no catch basins, are there?
I don't think there are catch basins.
There are catch basins?
No, I don't think there are.
No. All right, so on to stormwater requirements.
Okay.
All right, so 82, yes.
Mhm.
83, yes. Probably 84 to keep.
Yeah, definitely. That's like a normal
sediment away. Yeah,
construction
84, yeah.
practice. Yep.
And then there's no construction entrance, I guess.
I don't even picture that much open soil at once, but yeah, they don't have that.
They'll be using the driveways that they have
Yeah,
now.
right.
Okay. So then we don't need that.
Mm.
I don't know, would you, and then 86, a deed restriction on, I mean, this isn't like, they're structures, but they're not, you know, they're kind of like,
Probably too complicated for this
I
part.
think so. I do.
Mhm.
They're not like catch basins or like actual detention ponds. They're, you know,
Right.
18 inches. It's like a foot and a half.
Mhm.
They're very sort of minimal.
Okay.
Keep going here,
Okay, there's no monitoring involved.
right?
There's no dewatering.
Hope not. Sorry,
There's no dredging,
right?
no replication.
Does the commission want to include anything about monitoring the shrubs that are being proposed to be planted? Just like, I don't know.
We could probably cover that with the bond, that they've got to go through at least one growth season.
Right, that's what I mean. Like, do we want that in the order saying the shrubs need to survive
Yeah,
2 years, 1 year, something like that?
Yeah, we could add that as a special condition at the end.
Okay. Oops. Sorry. Okay, here you go.
106, yes. 107, yes. 108, yes.
Okay.
Future buyers, yes. And 110, there's no structures really to maintain.
Like the 4 bays are stormwater structures, David,
They are, okay.
or unless this is intended to be catch basin, but I would think this includes the 4 bays being cleaned out.
All right. It
Again,
does
it's
say
going to be very,
maintenance, so it
it's
gets-
going to be minimal, but it is.
All right, so 110, yes.
Okay.
111, yes, then. 112, yes.
Okay.
And a bond.
I was not at the site this round for this project, but I have been for previous projects. And based on that history and the topography, I was going to propose $5,000. That's my feedback right now, but I know, Tom, you were there and
That sounds fair to me, Jim.
others. Okay. But I want to tie this to the life cycle of the shrubs.
All right, so, commission in agreement?
Yes, I am.
Yep.
Okay, 5 it is. Okay, then
Oops.
we can add our special conditions.
Oops. Stop. Okay.
All right, so we need the approval of engineering of the stormwater, or for the city stormwater permit before any work can be done.
Yep.
What was yours, Jim, about maintenance?
Um,
Probably 2 years, Jim.
Yeah,
Is that
2
what you're
years.
thinking?
Yeah, the shrubs have to be viable and survive minimum. They have to survive 2 years before the bond is released.
Okay. Any
David, I
other
kind of cut in. Did you want to fish for maintenance on the new?
No,
I've lost the word.
not necessarily conditioned on the bond, but there should be a condition for the maintenance. I think it was somebody recommended twice a year for the mowing, for the 4 bays. And then,
Alex,
whatever
do we
else-
get into trouble by doing that? Is that what you were saying before?
Yeah, I think we just say it's a sediment forebay, so it should be maintained per the Massachusetts stormwater standards. And it's probably twice a year, Jim, but I don't quite recall what it is. So I don't think we should set it. I think we should just say follow the standard. Or
Okay.
it's probably in the O&M plan that was submitted too, and that's probably based on the stormwater standard. So either way, I think we just point to, that as opposed to saying it.
Yep, I agree.
Okay. Any other thing to add? Are you good, Meredith, so far?
Yes, I think I got everything written down. I think,
Okay.
yeah, we covered it all.
All right, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the conditions as written.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll
Second
second.
that.
Any
Jim can
further
have it.
discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Tom,
I'll vote yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Carl,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes as well. All right, thank you.
Thanks,
Good
Brett.
luck.
Good luck, Brett.
Item 4, public meetings. Item A, 231 East Main Street, Brixmore, repaving of a parking lot within the 100-year floodplain. So in accordance with the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, a public meeting will be held on November 23rd, 2021, 6:30 p.m. by virtual meeting regarding a request for determination submitted by Brixmore LLC for the repaving of a parking lot in the 100-year floodplain located at 231 East Main Street in Westfield. Again, this work has already been done, so this is after the fact. Meredith,
Brixmore is new to this shopping center, is that correct?
I don't
I'm
think
not
so.
sure. I'm not sure. But a representative from Brixmore is here tonight. If he wants, Mr. Pope wants
Yes,
to.
if I could. Good evening.
himself And present.
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, Larry Pope with Brixmore Property Group. No, we're not new to the center. We've been there for a while.
Right. So you've probably been through this before, RDAs?
Not with paving. I mean, we have been, as you know, with the Aldi development that's going on there and the Popeyes that's going to have there. But I haven't previously with paving.
How did you know to come to us even after the fact? How did you figure that out?
Meredith came to me, actually. Someone had spoken to her and saw the construction happening at the site, the paving. And she came to me and asked what was going on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so you basically ground out some old paving and replaced it with some new paving, but you did not change the height of the paving. Is that correct?
That's correct. We had an area of approximately 9,100 square yards, and we milled off 2 inches of pavement and then put down 2 inches of pavement and did not change any of the elevations.
Okay. Usually if someone wants to work in the floodplain, projects like this, they need to see us first. So
I understand that now. Absolutely.
thank you. So there's been no change as far as comp storage is concerned or anything like that.
Correct.
Okay. Meredith, any comments?
Yeah, I mean, I think we would have approved this under an RDA given that, and we would have required sort of the volume of asphalt being taken away and being put down. We would have required that from the applicant, and we did actually receive that from their contractor. So given that, I think, we would have approved this before. It's just an after the fact RDA. So I think we can approve it now. And I think Mr. Brixmore realizes that next time they need to repave, they'll come ahead, contact our office ahead of time. And
Okay. So you have documentation of what was removed and what was replaced?
yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any further questions from the commission? Any questions from the audience concerning this project? All right, entertain a motion to close the public meeting.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Tom,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Carl,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes as well. Okay, do we have a motion on the finding?
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we issue a -2 determination.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Tom,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Jim,
Yeah.
Carl,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes as well. Thank you.
Thank you, board.
Thank you, Mr. Pope.
Yeah, thanks, Larry.
Wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
All right, item B, 40 Park Street, tree and brush removal. In accordance with provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, public meeting will be held on November 23rd, 2021 at 6:30 PM. A virtual meeting regarding a request for determination submitted by Ryan Boniesso for the cutting of trees and brush removal and the addition of a fence and lawn in the riverfront area located at 40 Park Street. All right, is the applicant with us?
I'm not sure if they were going to be able to make it tonight.
Okay.
But to give the commission an overview, yeah, 40 Park Street is down along the levee. I can pull up a map actually if you guys want. Let's see. Hold on a second. And so basically this gentleman bought the property. It hasn't been maintained in a long time. All his neighbors have a lawn in the backyard and fences and that kind of thing. So he is requesting to put in a fence, cut some trees, and here, let me share my screen so you guys can see where this is. See that? It's down by Chapman Playground over there on that side of the levee, on the south side of the levee. So it's not in floodplain. I estimated it was within 200 feet of the river. So riverfront area is the resource. I don't think these trees are providing any shade river. Oops, let me go back. But they are providing habitat. This is the river corridor. So I was going to suggest like trees be allowed to be removed around the perimeter so the fence can be installed, but leaving some trees within the yard. I think there's like 2 or 3 trees in the yard. And I think he could still get a lawn in there and remove some brush. And that won't impact the river. Again, there's, the levee. I don't know if you guys ever walked this, but
Yeah.
there's
Yeah,
a
I know
significant
where-
permanent
yeah.
erosion control there. So I'm not too worried about the river. So I think that's pretty much it. I mean, it's a pretty minor project.
Are
You
there-
guys have any questions?
Did you get a chance to visit it, Meredith?
I did. And I forgot to get that picture uploaded, but I might be able to pull it up. I have a couple of photos. Let's see.
Meredith, what's the existing vegetation like there?
It's kind of like just like low growing herbaceous material. It's not lawn and it's not shrubs. And then there's like I don't know what kind of trees they are, like catalpa or locust. I wasn't sure of the trees in the yard. Let me just find the pictures. So yeah, it hasn't really been maintained. So
Any invasives?
I really couldn't identify the herbaceous stuff that was there. It was kind of a weird mix of things that didn't look very familiar, so probably invasive. Nothing major really stuck out. So I don't know if you guys want to go visit it. We can.
I don't think that's necessary
Yeah.
based on the comments I've heard.
I'd have a hard
I
time
am-
saying no to this guy.
Yeah, I think, I think we've got what we need here.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I cut you off, Tom. You were about to say something.
I was
else.
just curious, the proposal was for 8 trees to be removed. If we go with Meredith's suggestion and just allow trees to be cut to install the fence, how many trees would be cut? Would you guess, Meredith? I mean, half of those?
Yeah, I'm guessing there's like 4 or 5 along the perimeter.
And
Probably
the
4. I
remaining,
think it's like half.
the remaining trees are kind of mature, are they?
Yeah,
they
they're
worth-
mature trees within the like proposed lawn area. I can't find the photo. Yeah, there was one big, what is that called? Like a Norway spruce, maybe, that they wanted to remove. Anyways, yeah, I can't, there's too many photos I have on this phone here.
And the applicant is not with us tonight, is that correct?
No, they couldn't make it. They work nights, so they couldn't make it tonight. They could make it on the 14th. I don't know if you guys want to wait to talk with them.
I'd be okay saying to leave 1 or 2 trees, but you think about the riverfront functions. I mean, this whole area is residential developed. It's cut off from the river because of the levee. It's next to Chapman, which is maintained lawn essentially. Again, it's hard for me to argue that this particular property is the savior in this area from an environmental standpoint. And the only question I'd have is, it's like, yeah, we could say a couple of the significant trees in the backyard, would be nice to keep those. And we have the jurisdiction to say that. It's just, how do we identify those trees appropriately? So that's the only part I'm having a hard time with is, if we had you around between now and the 14th, Meredith, I'd be comfortable saying Meredith will go out and agree on 3 trees that stay in the backyard, but we don't. So that's what I'm just having a hard time logistically. How do we make that determination and decide, hey, here's 3 beautiful trees that should stay?
I found the pictures, if this helps.
Okay.
Oops, not that. So see this. They want to cut this one down so they can get their fence in. Like, see how there's some trees on the perimeter, but then there's mature. I forgot. They're like walnuts or butternuts. So there's
Probably black walnut. It looks like a black walnut.
Yeah, black walnut. Sorry, that's a different site. Here, is this a better? So you can see there's like smaller trees, and this one's a mature. But then this is the property edge, so they want to. So I don't know, maybe leave 1 or 2 mature trees in their backyard. That might be overkill. I don't know. Yeah. Can you tell what they are, Bob? I think they are.
Not really, but
yeah, they're kind of walnut.
They're black. I think they're black walnuts.
Yeah, I forgot they had a compound.
Yeah, that is because I can see the nuts. Yeah, that's black walnut.
Okay, great.
Yeah. No,
So anyways, let's see the levee.
Yeah.
So there's not going to be that much. I mean, they've been mowing this. This isn't lawn, but they want it to be lawn. So again, I think that's a good point that Alex mentioned. That is it really serving what function is this area serving to the river? If this is on the bank, that would be a bigger deal. I think it is important to maintain trees in an urban setting to a certain extent. So maybe just leave 2 trees that won't get in the way of their fence or something.
Yeah, 2 would be a good number, I think.
Well, rather than a number, why don't we kind of say it the way Meredith did, is that the only trees that we're approving be removed are those that are in the way of this new fence. If the landowner has a problem with that, he comes back at us.
I agree with that.
All right. We can start there and then as Tom said, he can come back and question that. Or we can just continue and let him have his say in the next meeting.
But if he's working, late or a second shift, or might be kind of tough for him, David.
Okay.
We clarified quote tree last year, didn't we, Meredith? Do we have that as a definition? We started to. I don't know if we, and I
We
think
did
it was a
discuss it.
discussion item, but I don't know as we ever posted, just because, some of the stuff back here might not even be considered a tree by us. And that's obviously going to be confusing for the landowner.
Good point. So no trees over
We had a
what? What'd you say?
DBH, exactly, right? So it's like some of the stuff in the backyard probably could be cut because we wouldn't consider it a tree.
So is it like, what's the standard, Bob? 2 inches, 3 inches? The diameter for a,
Yeah, but it's black walnut. They grow pretty quick and they're aggressive. Yeah, probably anything. You could cut anything under 2, I would say, but leave the more mature. That's my thought.
Mhm.
But again, I think we probably should move forward on this. It doesn't sound like it's a complicated thing, so I don't know what everybody else feels like.
Mhm.
I'm okay with what Bob's suggesting.
What about-
They're more mature rather than smaller things. I
Right.
mean, on the edge of their property, they're small. There's some smaller stuff, but
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I don't know if you wanted to give the public a chance to speak. Ms. Adams appears to have some commentary. I would say just to the chat, in this case, we're on the landward side of the levee. So we have a residential property and then a raised levee, and then it goes down, and then you have the river in the bank. So while I generally agree, or I absolutely agree in most circumstances that trees are critical to preservation of the bank and erosion control, in this case, it's interrupted by that man-made levee structure. So I wouldn't argue that the tree in this case has any benefit to the river bank itself. But Mr. Chair, if you want to let Ms. Adams speak briefly.
Where is she now? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, so I think that actually, when you consider things like trees along riverbanks and things, you should be looking at the reasons why you shouldn't take them down versus why it's okay to take them down. You guys are the conservation committee. You should be conserving. That's all. That's really, I guess, my own plea. I really don't feel like your mandate is to be figuring out ways for people to not conserve. You should be figuring out ways to help people to conserve. And trees are a valuable resource. And yes, I like Tom Sharp's idea that maybe look at this as a way for the landowner to be able to build his fence and only take out enough trees to be able to do so. That way you conserve the trees and, provide the landowner with some satisfaction. That seems to me to be a better decision. Just my thought.
All right, thank you. Okay, other discussion from the commission then? Right. So again, if we look at our notes, that is the original proposal. Only trees to be cut in order to construct the fence.
and then the caveat that Alex brought up, we would add that, we would consider no trees over 2-inch diameter shall be removed unless they're in the way of the fence, the proposed fence.
Okay. All right, so that'll leave the mature trees in the yard.
Correct.
Okay. Any other comments then from the commission?
I'd just say I like that and I feel comfortable doing that with.
All right, thank you, Carl. All right, any other comments from the audience concerning this particular project?
I'm good.
Thank you. All right, seeing none, entertain a motion to close the public meeting.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Bob,
Yes.
Tom,
Yep.
Carl,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Jim,
Yep.
I'll vote yes as well. All right, do we have a proposal on the finding?
I'd like to propose, Mr. Chairman, a -3 with the following conditions. That,
Bit of two.
Check your notes, Jim.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Check your note.
I am.
Okay.
It's a -2.
Yeah, -2 with conditions. Notify the
Okay.
coordinator when the work is starting and completed. Only trees in the way of the perimeter fence may be removed. Brush removal and lawn fence installed within the lawn fence area and installation area is permitted. An applicant must plant 4 native shrubs such as dogwood, viburnum, shadbush, or meadowsweet.
Want to add the condition about the removing trees less than 2 inches in diameter?
Yes, trees greater than 2 inches in diameter should remain. Less than 2 inches in diameter can be removed.
That's for the lawn area, right? Not necessarily the fence perimeter. Was that the, yeah.
Yes, for the lawn area.
Okay. Okay, any other conditions?
I'll make a second to that if it hasn't been seconded.
Yeah, hasn't been seconded yet. Okay, thank you. Any further discussion then? Seeing none, all in favor? Bob,
Yes.
Tom,
I vote yes.
Carl,
Yes.
Jim,
Yep.
and Alex,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes as well. Carl?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Hollywood Squares got out of order on you, David, didn't they?
I know, keep moving around. Okay. All right, item 5, enforcement, 33 Castle Hill Road. I don't see Mr. Kopacz.
Yeah, I did send him the link.
Okay, I know.
Let's
Okay,
see. Well,
and Meredith and I visited this site last week. And there's a steep slope right behind the house. And at the end of the driveway, there was a huge gully from a storm that washed right into the height or the high end of the bank. And so the homeowner brought in some fill to try to fill in that hole. And it went over the bank and down. And we're near the bottom of the toe of the bank is within the buffer zone of Jack's Brook. And also within the buffer zone of a wetland that's adjacent to Jack's Brook. Meredith, you have some pictures?
yeah, let me pull up these photos.
So David, he or she brought soil in and tried to fill in this hole, or did
Yes.
he just throw brush in it, or
Oh, no, it was all soil, some kind of soil.
but it washed out?
It didn't appear to be loam.
So this entire slope, we're at the end of the guy's driveway looking down, and he dumped like 33 yards of material down the slope. These rocks are all from the dumping. Because I walked down here, there's also slash, and this is actually a wetland at the toe of the slope. And it's within 200 feet of the river, but luckily the sediment didn't get into the river. It's probably like 150 feet from the bank of the river. But this is looking down in the wet area, looking up at the slope, which since we've been communicating, he put the silt fence in, he brought in this tobacco netting to kind of mitigate additional runoff from the exposed soils. It's just the wetland at the toe of the slope. Well, some sediment.
What is that, tarp, Marilyn?
It's,
Is that a tarp?
He called it tobacco netting.
Okay.
It looked more like a tarp to me, but
If you look closely, it's like mesh.
it is mesh. Okay.
Yeah.
And that,
But I don't think it's compostable. You know, I don't know, but I don't know if it's going to decompose. So anyways, it's kind of a mess. In all this material. So this is wetland and all this material is dumped. And I don't know how big the gully was, but this was a vegetated slope. This is the neighbors.
Steep.
Yeah, it's very, very steep. You know, the neighbor has a retaining wall at the top of their driveway. And this is what their slope looks like. You know, it's still very steep, but it's vegetated and sort of natural. So I don't know. I don't know what the best thing to recommend him to do. I mean, obviously we're going to proceed with an enforcement and somehow figure out how to mitigate the impacts of dumping all this material without any permit.
Just, I guess, under this material, is it all natural soil that was there? I mean, but I guess you wouldn't know what kind of condition that natural soil is. How thick is the dumped material? I guess that's the question.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, it's so steep, you can't really, I didn't dare walk on it. And it was pretty wet. I know, I think one of my ideas was like, do we have them kind of have a long arm excavator at the top of the hill and move some of this material out of the way, because I don't know if this is going to revegetate. It's sand, it's gravel, it's boulders. It's not loam, you know.
Who put that those logs down in the wetland area? Did the homeowner, or were they there?
What did he say about the logs, David? Do you remember? I think he cut trees. I don't know. I mean, some of them have fallen. One neighbor, actually, the neighbor did say.
The next door neighbor said he cut one because it was leaning towards his house.
One.
Yeah.
But there was like all these trees. So I didn't get clarification on where those came from. They did not look brand new, but you know.
Right. I mean, they could have lost their support as erosion occurred over the years.
Yeah, I mean,
how long has this been like this? Do you know? Is this recent damage?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I mean, I just got a call like a month ago about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was from a storm this fall that caused the damage.
Well, the damage was caused because he dumped a bunch of material down.
Okay.
And then, but yeah, he said there was a gully. We don't know how big the gully was, and what we don't really know. But yes, from what the property owner said, it was big. You know, like lots of slopes, steep slopes. They erode naturally.
Sounds like we got two issues here. You know, we've got the issue that's obviously the enforcement here, where material was dumped and is now affecting the resources. But the reason the material was dumped in the first place was the beginnings of a slope failure, which, you know, the homeowner attempted to remedy themselves, but likely should have hired a consultant to, you know, help figure out what the approach was here. You know, we don't know what that rilling or erosion actually looked like. And, you know, perhaps if he's saying gully, I imagine it was fairly significant, you know, so it seems to me like we probably need some advice, some level of support here to determine, you know, what to do. And it doesn't have to be an engineer. It could be a responsible site contractor as well. But, you know, it sounds like we've got the compound issue where we've got some enforceable stuff under the Wetlands Protection Act, but it's just going to happen again if the erosion issue isn't dealt with appropriately.
I totally agree. I think the landowners should come back to us with a plan, with something, how he's going to fix this. We shouldn't try to tell him how to fix it. I
don't mind saying erosion control, honestly, the top and the bottom of this area. You know, you should probably put erosion, because it's not going to stabilize before winter. You should probably have a barrier at the top of this slope that basically diverts runoff to a vegetated area adjacent to this failure. You need it at the bottom, and you got to go hand remove the stuff at the bottom immediately before it gets covered by snow. But after that, I'm going where Tom's going.
Who installed the black silt fence? Any idea?
The homeowner did it after
Okay.
I sent him an initial letter.
And the call you had from a concerned citizen, a neighbor, was about cutting trees, or did they notice him dumping stuff, or why did they contact us?
Because they're aware that there's resource areas at the bottom of the hill, and because there was dumping
Okay.
down the slope. Yeah.
I'd like to kind of add though, Alex, I understand what you're saying about, an experienced contractor, but based on what we're seeing for damage and the complexities, we might need to have this individual hire definitely a consultant, who can take a deeper look at this. There may have to be some combination of slope restoration and retaining wall, and some other approaches to this that might require multiple disciplines on how this is going to be revegetated. But definitely got to get those boulders out of there. I just think that I think I'm leaning more towards a wetlands consultant or somebody that can, a site engineer that can handle this.
Considering the steepness of that slope and the distance to the boulders, I'm not sure how anybody's going to get them out of there. You can't pick them up by hand; they're too heavy. You can't get a machine down there.
Boulders might be there to stay for that reason, Mr. Chair, and it might be a matter of kind of hand digging out the material around them, because that's just going to be the least impact now to the wetland.
Sure.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Now that we're talking about it, let me see how there's boulders, but then there's sort of finer material. So that stuff could be removed by hand with a, shovel and a wheelbarrow and moved to the other side of the silt fence. And, but the boulders, I guess.
What type of wetland is there? Did you see water? Did you see hummocks? Did you see wetland vegetation within it? Was it more of like a mature or late fall vernal pond type thing, or what is it?
It's just a groundwater seep at the toe of the slope.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's standing water and
a lot of vines in it.
I see it. Yeah.
Prickle bushes.
Yeah. Looks like you got some ground ivy there, and probably have some skunk cabbage.
Yes, there was actually. Now that you see, I saw a little skunk cabbage shoot. So there's probably a lot more in the spring. We're going into dormant season. So it's definitely. I mean, there was running water coming out of the slope there.
Yes.
Oh yeah. So okay, it sounds like we are coming to.
We've got kind of a standard letter, right, Meredith, that you send out.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do we want to give them 2 weeks, or I guess that's fair to at least come back to us, demonstrate, or bring us a plan.
Yeah.
Or at least show us that if you're not going to bring us a plan, that you've hired someone to help you figure this out.
Tom, I don't know how this is in the realm of a homeowner to put a plan together to deal with this erosion and wetland restoration.
You're not going to get a plan in 2 weeks, but I think we could say, they need to come forth with a consultant that they're going to work with, within
I'm okay. Yeah, I'm
by
okay
the
with
next
that.
meeting. I mean, the immediate stabilization actions can take place and should take place probably also within that tight time frame. But after that, we're into winter anyway. Nobody's
Yeah.
going to do work here until the spring, so we have some time for the plan for the permanent measures here. But we got to make sure that it gets stabilized somehow for the winter. So if we can, if we're comfortable recommending how that happens with the barriers at the top and the bottom, but if we're not, then I guess we do need something of a more urgent plan from some kind of consultant to come in and say this is how to stabilize it temporarily.
I'm just not comfortable with the tobacco netting. I think it's a nylon and it's really not going to break down and be environmentally friendly. So
You broke up, Bob. I didn't hear you. What?
I'm not really comfortable with the tobacco netting being there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the only thing I have to add to that. I think
Yeah.
for stabilization for the winter, there should be a more, like Meredith put down, more of something that's going to break down something organic.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if like the tobacco netting was okay for the winter. And then, I was just brainstorming with my notes and trying to long term. Yeah, that's absolutely not going to work.
No.
We need to figure out how to get this revegetated and then erosion control blanket on the top. I don't know if that makes sense to do before winter because we're probably going to have them rip it up and seed and loam or hydro seed or something.
Maybe we just kind of keep it simple now. We reset the silt fence at the base, at the toe, with armor it, and also with straw bales. But at the top, also do a silt fence and straw bales, so you can allow some perk.
Mm-hmm.
But in controlling the water's still going to flow down there, but at least you can control the velocity of it and stop the erosion. Probably just keep the tobacco netting in there now and take it out in the spring after some consultant looks at this to say what's the best way to fix this problem.
All right,
Yeah,
that
Right
sounds-
now, Bob, that might not even be cotton tobacco netting nowadays. It might be some type of polyester for all we know.
That's what I'm thinking. I don't think it's
Yeah.
cotton. If it was cotton, I'd say it would be fine.
Right.
But if sedimentation gets on it, it's going to be tough to get it out of there.
Yeah. And just getting it out of there is going to cause a problem. It could release a lot of silt. And right now, that's already grabbed a lot of dirt. You'd have to literally haul it out, winch it out. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on there.
But do you think it's okay for the winter? It did
Unless-
seem to,
Unless you could move forward with material that would, again, I've always talked about jute. I know it works really well.
Mhm.
And even if he wants to seed or do whatever, it would be a better product than what he has there now. That's all.
Okay.
oh, he did put down some winter rye.
Oh.
But-
If it's cotton, I would be okay with it where it's going to break down. But if it's polyester,
Yeah.
and it really should, something should be done before winter.
I respect what you're saying, Bob, and I believe, yeah. But now we're getting to the point of moving into the design of this solution, even though it's temporary. This homeowner's got to get a consultant.
I'm agreeing. I agree with that.
Stabilized for the winter. It's they did the damage, and I think the enforcement order's got to reflect that. Give them the timeline to get in here and have them come in with a consultant to repair the damage.
I think if whatever that material, if you remove it, then you're going to have more erosion with any storm that comes up.
Yeah, but you remove it and replace it at the same time. If you could do that within a timely manner.
But what are you going to replace it with?
The jute?
Yes.
Yeah, that's in blankets, right?
Yeah, it's the
And you
same
staple
sort of,
it. You staple it down with those huge ground staples.
Yeah, it's biodegradable.
Yeah.
And then whatever he does, he can loom over it, he can do whatever, and it breaks down. That's all.
He could loom over the blanket.
Yeah.
He did say he would get erosion control blanket, but I didn't want anything to be done until we talked.
Well, then I got to go back to what Jim says too. I guess we need a consultant first.
I guess my question is it detrimental to leave the tobacco netting there for the winter? Sounds like it is. I have no experience with tobacco netting.
I'm going to defer to
Anyone
Bob. Bob, this is Bob's world. You know.
Well, it really isn't my world, but it would be better to have something in there that was a little bit more environmentally friendly, as long as it's not polyester. If that's polyester, then something should be done. If it's cloth, then I would be good with it. Because it will break down. He can always bloom or seed over it or whatever. But
yeah, maybe that's what we did.
Those shreds of polyester is going to end up in the trees. The birds are going to make nest with them. They're just going to, again.
To me, it sounds as if we definitely need to have them install those erosion controls at the toe and at the top of the slope, and then get a consultant ASAP. Can we
go so far as to say hand excavate the silt that washed beyond the barrier also and put it back on the upland, the upgradient side of the barrier? That's something that's simple enough that should just get done. But the rest is kind of, I don't mind asking Bob's question here. If that's a plastic and it can get swapped out before winter, better.
And go with the jute, if that'll stabilize it. And
that's the correct solution, and that's what a consultant's going to want to put in there ultimately. It's just a matter of whether or not they're also putting in a wall somewhere or they're, doing other measures that, touches up that again. But I would suspect the majority of the slope is going to be a jute with some loam and seed. It's the most cost-effective solution for this terrain.
Mm-hmm. All right, so
I think we ought to move on and just sell what we're going to require and do the enforcement order and have them do the toe, the top, put some jute, remove that tobacco netting, put jute on, and get a consultant to do a final design.
I'll just say if it's plastic, right?
Right.
Yes, if it's plastic.
All right. Is that acceptable to the group?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess so. The only thing I worry about is that removing that tobacco netting, if it's sort of done wrong, might make the matters worse. I don't know. It's hard to make it worse, I guess, but.
Well, it's already shredding at the bottom.
Yeah.
I would just present it, Meredith, as erosion controls reestablished at the bottom. Then if necessary, the netting is replaced. If it's plastic, then it's replaced. Then the top controls are put in, just so that you make sure that bottom control's in place before they pull that up. If that's what we're going to say. That way, if something does happen, rains in the middle of it, they don't get to it quick enough, at least we've got the barrier there functioning again at the bottom. But I would think, I would hope, knowing that the eyes are on them now, that they don't make that kind of a mistake, or at least make a call if they're concerned and need clarification on what we've asked them to do.
Right. So erosion controls and straw bales, top and bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then if the material is not cotton, if it's plastic, then it needs to be replaced with jute.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. As soon as possible.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Should we also add in there that we should remove any soil that's beyond the silt fence by hand?
Right.
Okay.
And put on the other side of the silt fence.
Right.
Okay.
As Jim pointed out earlier, the most important thing is that this guy thinks he's done the erosion controls. We've got to help him understand that he needs to put the hay bales in, especially at the bottom of that slope first, before he touches that tarping. And as you said, Bob, at the top, and I think we should insist that that be done, and we have documentation of that by our next meeting.
Yep.
And then after that, we can worry about shovel and silt and removing the tarp once we have once we've protected the area as best we can with the erosion controls. Meredith, you must have a pretty standard letter that kind of says something like that, right? Or
Yeah, I'll just write up our discussion tonight. Yeah. It's different for every parcel, but, or every enforcement, I should say, but yeah.
what are we going to do without you?
Probably have more fun, less enforcements.
All right, everybody all set with the enforcement?
Yeah.
All right,
I'm good.
we have a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second
I'll
it.
second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Bob,
Yes.
Jim,
Yep.
Alex,
Yes.
Carl,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Cliff. I see you there.
Hey, Cliff.
I let him
Unmute
in.
yourself.
There he is. Oh, he's in the car.
He is. He's muted.
You're
Yeah.
muted.
Good
Unmute
Lord, is he-
yourself.
Okay, sorry about that. No, I didn't. I'll abstain because I didn't hear the very beginning of this conversation. I heard most of it.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, item B, 300 Union Street, custom railing, metal fabricators. Soil disturbance in 50-foot no disturb zone and in wetlands. Meredith.
Yeah, I did bring this up last time and we issued an enforcement order, but I haven't heard anything from these folks. And I sent them the link and I was hoping they would come tonight so we could, discuss procedurally what to do next. But they're not here. And I just wanted I didn't realize this at first, but the property is actually in the floodplain. It's on what side of Union Street there? I guess that's the east side. Anyways, it's mapped as floodplain. So I didn't mention that before, but I wanted to mention it tonight that if the guy's going to be doing filling, he's going to need to do comp storage, I guess, or figure out if he's impacting the floodplain, like get a survey. So I don't know, what do you do when you issue an EO and then they don't meet the deadlines?
Well, does your EO specifically also say that there's cease and desist all activity?
Yes.
Okay, then we can issue a fine.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't think anything's been done. I just haven't heard from them. But I do imagine, it's the end of the year. It's just getting a consultant right now might be difficult.
I don't know. So I would propose that you resend the letter certified and say that if we don't hear from him by the next meeting, we consider a daily fine.
Okay. Yeah.
Sounds good.
I mean, you've got multiple resources areas here. You've already been there. We've done our job.
Yeah.
You've done your job. And so really the onus is on him.
All right,
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Will do.
okay. All right, so we already approved the enforcement order before, so I don't think we need to vote again on it.
Okay.
All right, item C, 1223 East Mountain Road. I'll get an update on the Dupuy property.
Yeah, and I also, I was just going to update you guys. I was able to do a site visit last week with Natural Heritage, and they have a new architect they're working with. And I reviewed. Do you guys want to see the pictures of?
I did read the report from the consultant. And
okay.
that has some pictures. Is that the same one?
The culvert, yeah, the new culvert that was installed.
Yeah.
Yeah, here, I'll show you a couple, I won't take too long with this, 'cause I know we have other stuff we gotta get to, but, so this is the bridge. I shouldn't call it a culvert. It's a bridge. So much better improvement than the 12-inch PVC
Oh
pipe. that
boy,
was
what a
installed.
difference, yeah.
Yeah, and so they reconstructed the stream. I know they had, they had monitors. So I'm quite happy with the way this came out. This is the stream coming in on the west side. So it's coming from the wetland over here, and then it flows this way under the bridge. Where'd it go? And then goes to the other side, and they have some sort of the erosion controls are still in place. They have some check dams that were on the plans they installed, and that's the stream going out on the other side. This is the other side of the
Looks good.
bridge. Yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah, they maintain the wildlife corridor too, which is good.
Yeah, you're right, which is really important for this site in particular. But so one thing, I don't know if you guys can see, so there's this straw wattle with netting in there. I think the only comment is from myself and Natural Heritage is they got to get that out of there because it is animals can get caught up in that netting. So
Is that jute netting or is it nylon?
There's a kind of decomposing straw wattle with plastic netting. And then this is there's this one. It's hard to see because it's kind of blending in.
I see it. No, I can see it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then this green one is a compost filter tube, which these are preferred when you're dealing with rare wildlife or wildlife in general because the mesh is really tight so things can't get in there and get stuck.
Yeah.
So that's what they're basically using throughout the property.
Okay.
So anyways, that's that.
Thank you.
This is the wetland mitigation area. I mean, it's fully vegetated. It was hard to tell what stuff was, but from the wetland scientist report, it sounded like things are moving in the direction we want. And
those large stumps that we had them retain were kept there, one to stabilize, but also to provide wildlife habitat. And I was just curious if you saw any wildlife activity around them, either birds lighting on them or, I don't know, evidence of burrowing or, just that was the intent.
Yeah. I don't know. There's definitely chipmunks out there. I don't remember seeing.
There's chipmunks everywhere.
I know. They're
okay.
Or something. Yeah, I don't remember seeing anything in particular. I was kind of more focused on the vegetation and.
That's okay. There was a lot of snakes around there. I'm sure they're going to find home there. So.
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay. All right.
So, there's just one more picture of, Berry Brook. So remember how this is the area, this is just beyond the fence, gate, I should say.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like anyone's been driving through there. I don't know if that's just because all the leaves fell down, but this area, it looks like it's been kind of stabilized over.
Yeah.
Since the last time. So that was good too. And this is just there's a tiny piece of riverfront area that they cleared, which is coming back.
Going up the hill a little bit.
Up the hill from Berry Brook. Yeah. This is like the outer 200-foot riverfront area. That's just the field. They did mow the field, which is outside of our jurisdiction, but I guess
it's all stabilized and that's good.
Yeah, and stuff's growing. So that's the road and the bridge there. So anyways,
Meredith, is it really outside our jurisdiction? I thought we were still under a don't do anything order up there.
Yeah, we are. It's just, there are a large area where they cleared is not within our jurisdiction. It's outside of any resource areas or buffer zones.
I thought we put the kibosh on the whole property. maybe we didn't have legal right to do that, but I thought that's how we worded. Don't do anything. Stop. Do not do nothing until you reach out to us.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
But that was in us and in concert with the state.
Correct.
The
Has that
state took
changed?
jurisdiction over the areas that we didn't have control over, like natural
Have there been
heritage
any-
or DEP.
Have there been any changes to that, David?
Not that I know of. You want to mention the take letter, Meredith?
yeah, the Natural Heritage did issue a take letter, which basically is, we knew all along that was going to happen. They just finally issued it. And who's that? Sorry, I got distracted. Let me see. So I can share this. And it's good that this came up tonight. I'm glad I had this on the agenda because I got an email from Mark Dupuy tonight asking about if we can sign off on a well permit. And I'm completely uncomfortable doing that. But it's also outside of our jurisdiction. So I don't know. I don't know what to do about that.
Wouldn't
So anyways,
Natural Heritage sign off on that? Then?
they would have to, yes. And they have been allowing certain things to happen outside of the snake active season. So they said they were willing to authorize the well installation, but not well operation. So I don't know how that works. I mean, I feel like that's kind of a slippery slope. So anyways.
If they're proposing a well that's not within our jurisdictional areas, I mean, that's not, Natural Heritage has the jurisdiction over most of the parcel because of the estimated or confirmed habitat, right?
Yes.
I mean, it seems like it's more their issue. We can't act kind of beyond our lines. I mean, if they're part of the issue here was some of the clearing beyond the resources, obviously then impacted the resources. And I think that's a big part of Tom's point, was clear cutting even beyond those boundaries and having all that disturbed earth was detrimental to the resources.
Right.
But, we've also gone back and forth on this issue, but then more globally, where do we start and finish? And in terms of the erosion potential, I am concerned beyond the resource line on the paper, but in terms of the well, I don't know as we have much say there. It's but I guess my question at first, Meredith, that first came up to me was whether or not Natural Heritage knew, say, that the field was mowed and whether that was a permitted activity by them at the time.
Yeah, they didn't say anything. The representative from Natural Heritage was with me on the site visit.
Okay. I mean, we could simply ask them to confirm that to us in writing, in an email or whatever, that they're comfortable with the operations out there. And then from a habitat standpoint, I guess then we would defer to that agency. That's what they do.
Right. So
Meredith, from your roundtable discussions, has the city have any other boards or committees or commissions had anything to do with this property except us? Has Highway approved the driveway or the road entrance?
No, because they never filed a site plan review with planning, which would include the stormwater permit. They didn't file a building permit. I mean, for the building or the road.
Tom, I can weigh in on an answer for you or a partial. There were a number of cease and desists that were issued by the city regarding the specific departments. I don't know. I know there was multiple ceases and desists as well as from the state, and of course we had our own cease and desist with them. So those all had to kind of come together. Regarding the bridge crossing, I do know the fire, or if I recall correctly, the fire department did weigh in on it to determine the strength that was required for a fire truck to go over it and the width. But that's certainly outside of our jurisdiction, except for the placement and the condition around it, which we had influence over. Well, I don't know if that helps you out, but there was a lot of cease and desists. I had heard that there was 10, or I vaguely remember that. That may be wrong. A lot of city departments were involved in this, including us, and the state.
Well, you well know this, Jim, but the first proper step is to file paperwork with the city. And what Meredith is telling us is that still has not been done. You know, these years later, it still has not been done,
but which
is interesting.
But we kept this under enforcement order, if I recall, not an NOI. Is that
well?
correct?
I'm talking about the buildings they built, the structures, the road, you know, all those things. Next thing we know, there's going to be a house up there, probably. That's where I'm guessing.
Regarding that building, which is at the crown of the hill, I don't think it's in our jurisdiction. After being up there a number of times.
No, I agree. It's not ours. What is our jurisdiction is the netting you're concerned about. How do you handle that, Meredith? You'll send a letter to the consultant and say, please remove it, or do you call Mark, or how do you do that?
No, I put it in writing and say during our site, I will send an email to the property owner and Natural Heritage and their architect and outline what we saw at the site visit and say what needs to be done, and so everyone's on the same page.
Okay.
Yeah, and as far as the cease and desist, there were many departments that issued a cease and desist 2 years ago, but they don't have enforcement power. They can't say you have to file, or at least that's my understanding. So they won't issue a certificate of occupancy because there's no building permit, but yeah, and we've talked, and there seems like there's not a lot the city can do to get them to file, but they still have to file a conservation and management permit with Natural Heritage. There's a lot to do out there. Mm-hmm. So anyways, back to this well permit. I mean, if it's not in our jurisdiction, basically the city form, the health department issues well permits, and on that form it says there's a place for the Conservation Commission to sign off. And so now I'm being asked to sign off, and I haven't had a chance. I just got it tonight, so I haven't had a chance to review the plans. I don't even know where it is. I think it's at like the top of the hill.
I mean, if it's not in our jurisdiction, you know, in a resource area, you know, with all the work and the well, I think, you know, the wellhead is, I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. And I don't know what the reference to equipment meant. Obviously there's got to be some piping, but you know, good luck on your investigation.
Would the city attorney have any recommendation concerning that?
I can ask her. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
All right. So we do need to move on, but it seems like things are going, you know, as expected up there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Item 6, discussion. Someone would like to cut some trees on the bank of an intermittent stream.
Yeah. So this gentleman, I did a site visit, and this gentleman would like to cut a bunch of trees on an intermittent stream so he can get more sun in his backyard. And I just put this on here because he's obviously going to have to file, but I wanted to get a sense of what I should tell him. I mean, I don't think it's a great idea because the trees, they're on the bank of a stream, and eventually the roots are holding the bank together. So anyways, it's just, you know, the typical homeowner wants to cut to get more sun in their yard. But let me show you the trees just real quick. And then we do have to, I gotta hurry up here.
it is slightly encouraging that this landowner knew to call us rather than cut the trees and then wait for a neighbor to call us.
Yeah, I don't
So-
know how they knew that. I'm not sure how they figured that out. But yeah, it is encouraging. They were definitely not happy that I was like, well, you're definitely gonna have to file something. So here's some of the trees. Flip through here. This is a giant cottonwood on the, it's not quite on the bank, it's kind of off to the side, but it's a really big tree. They were asking about these other trees, which are kind of, I'm not sure if this is wet over here, but if it's in the buffer zone, and he was asking about this red maple. I mean, I think they also want to put solar on their house. So where is that? Sorry. Oh, here's a, so see how there's a stream here, and these are some of the trees. So I don't know. I mean, 1, 2 trees, that's one thing, but clear cutting, I was like, you definitely aren't, I don't think that's.
I mean, that's going to change the whole character once you lose that canopy of what's going on there. How old's the house, by the way? Do you know? Just roughly, very rough. 10 years, 50 years, 5 years, 25? Because a lot of those houses, before they were built, did have to get their property delineated. And I'm seeing this right near, I'm looking at an overview right now of the property on Google Maps, and I have a pretty good idea where it is. And that there might be a former permit on this or a delineation.
Well,
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was built in 1973.
Okay, so all right, that's about the beginning. All right.
So we
That
probably
is a while,
won't
that is
have.
a while ago, yeah.
Yeah.
I think this needs
I
a
don't
site
know.
visit.
You guys want to do a site visit? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
He'll
first
be
we need,
filed. Maybe when he
yeah, need to
files.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate that he wants to add sunlight to his yard, but at the same time, that's going to very much change the nature of that stream that's going to rely on the shading to keep it cool. So I'd be rather reluctant to approve that.
Yeah. And it is a tributary to the Westfield River.
Okay. So let's do a site visit before we say one way or the other.
Okay. Yeah, he'll file something. So okay, thanks.
All right, item B. Again, we've been approached by individuals to give us some comments about the data center. Okay, who's doing that? And we have no proposal from the data center before us. So this is rather irregular. But we know that there's a lot of public interest in this, since it was approved, at least part of it was approved by the Planning Commission and the City Council. So we have 4 people who'd like to speak to this. Just please, keep your comments as short as you can, maybe 3 to 5 minutes apiece. We still do have more business before the commission. So, Mr. Willett, you wanted to start?
Sure. I put together a presentation. First part of it is some talking points on why I don't think it's a good idea for this to be built in our neighborhood. And then I've got some photography of the wildlife in the area. So I'm going to share my screen now.
All right, can you do this within 3 to 5 minutes?
I believe so.
Okay.
So here we go. Yep, that's on Service Star Road during a late night run I went on. So we should oppose this because of habitat loss. It's undeveloped woods next to wetlands. Bees, butterflies, hummingbirds, pollinator populations have been dropping recent years due to all the development around the world, pesticide use. Just minimize. There we go. Eastern box turtle. They're a species of special concern in Massachusetts. it would be a shame for them to disappear from our state. Predators. There's a game trail that runs parallel to the Arm Brook, and see them coming, going up and down. They need lots of area to roam, and when their habitat starts disappearing, they have nowhere else to go aside from people's yards, and that increases the possibility of negative interactions. So, pets, garbage bins, and it's not their fault, but they have nowhere else to go. Amphibians, particularly sensitive to pollution, traffic. I'm sure you've driven over a road in a rainstorm. And then there's all kinds of other things, such as, foxes, hawks, raccoons, woodpeckers, tons of different songbirds, deer. There used to be pink lady slipper flowers, but they're an example of how, even though there's still undeveloped land in the area, all the development has negatively impacted their ability to live. Part of the web of an ecosystem. Wild turkey. The last time I saw any in this neighborhood were when they built the solar farm up on Southampton Road. Traffic. Will make our lives more stressful just by, every year more trucks clogging up the morning and afternoon commute. Eventually 400 people will be employed there, not counting construction workers. And those aren't necessarily going to be Westfield citizens. Noise. The construction will continue for a dozen, 15, 20 years. And there's already a lot of noise from fans from the highway. People should be able to go into their backyards and hear the earth. Big tech is not our friend. Their primary purpose is to generate value for their shareholders. And just a fact of that power imbalance is that for us to use these tools, we have to be spied on. So it's not a relationship that we want to nurture. The loss of our way of life. So just going on a walk in New England fall foliage, going for a run or a bike ride. There's a reason that we live in Western Mass. And this will impact not just our neighborhood, but the broader area, the whole region. What I foresee happening is if this data center is built, more companies will want to have their headquarters in Western Mass, in the Pioneer Valley, and their employees will come along. And there's cheap land in hill towns, so they'll want to build houses out there. Excuse me. But they won't want to give up conveniences of urban living. So eventually, in generation, we'll see a Walmart and 5 Dunkin' Donuts in towns like Huntington. Misconceptions. The idea that it's blighted, that there's just nothing up here that can be wiped away. Mayor Humison said this summer, as far as building the place up a little, I don't think it would hurt because there's not a lot out there on that side of town. I don't think it would make people's day of life that much different. Here he is standing out there, but I don't think he spends a lot of time actually in our neighborhood. So I'll just run through some of my photography, and here's a little film of wildlife in the area. This was a red-tailed hawk I saw. This is about 40 seconds. There it goes. The moments like that you just don't get in urban areas, and money can't replace those kinds of experiences. Next slide here. This was on a late night run. Those kinds of experiences are, it's important to have these in our lives. And it'll be important for future generations to be able to imagine what it was like for the Native Americans who lived here, for the early explorers and colonists who lived here. So, a lot of bumblebees, a lot of pollinators in the area. And I'll just cycle through these. Extremely important to everything about our way of life. Amphibians. And, there's no guarantee that the employees driving to this data center will take the time to go slowly during the rainstorm. They'll probably just care about getting to work on time. Monarch butterflies, their migration has actually started to collapse in some instances. They've been having difficulty with the trek to Mexico and back.
Right.
Praying mantis. The Hobomok skipper butterfly. They need wooded areas to live in. Now, this is from Florence, Mass, but it's just an example of the turtles that live in this area. And I wanted to remind everybody that, this isn't just a category of special concern, but it's a beautiful thing that we shouldn't, no amount of money should allow that to be lost from Massachusetts. This was submitted by my mother, Mountain Laurel, alongside the brook. This was taken by my late father, 2011, flock of turkeys. And this was the last time I saw a lady slipper in the area. And that, that tree is still standing. Nothing's been built over there, but because of all the noise, the neighborhood that was built across the brook, it's no longer suitable habitat for it. Possible mitigations. Now, I would recommend that you folks do everything in your power to block this development, but if that's not possible, you could apply very stringent conditions on the builders, abstain from pesticide use, which they've already stated that that's part of their plan. Create pollinator habitat, so have any areas that do need to be cut, mow them sparingly, allow them to turn into a meadow by planting things like purple coneflower, milkweed, black-eyed Susan, liatris, basswood, scanning for wildlife for any work, and there's already a precedence for that for Eversource when they do the mowing near their power lines. This isn't on here, but another suggestion is to build some sort of wildlife crossing tunnel. I know that's been done in other places.
Okay, thank you.
This graphic, this is just a symbol of how, money is losing value every day, folks. Inflation, but this kind of thing can't be replaced.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can send a copy of that file to their office so we have it on record.
Sure. I actually already emailed it to Meredith.
Okay, thank you.
I have to send it to a separate, official.
All right.
That's fine.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Mary Ann, you had a few comments? Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, please
Hey,
stop
Josh,
sharing. Josh,
Am I still sharing my screen?
yeah, please stop.
Yeah, I've never actually used the share screen function of Zoom.
So Joshua, close your document.
Here we go.
All right, thank you. Okay, Mary Ann, a few minutes.
Okay, I'm going to be very brief there. So thank you for the opportunity to speak, because I know there's other people who are running short on time, and I want to say that I'm someone who has worked for many years with others in this area to protect the natural resources on the north side. I'm here today because I want to support those residents like Joshua who wish to share their concerns about the impact of overdevelopment on the north side. Excuse me. Developments such as the major data center project, which Joshua mentioned, which could potentially put the area resources at greater risk. There are Northside residents who do share deep concerns about projects that could be detrimental to the precious resources we have up here, the aquifer, the waterways like Armbrook, Powder Mill, and so on and so forth, habitats, and the people who live here, whose quality of life is definitely impacted by some of these major projects. In my opinion, I said that this very large data center project should not be pushed through without thorough and thoughtful deliberation and discussion regarding the possible long-term consequences of a project of this size. In this day and age, we cannot afford to be short-sighted with our decision-making. It is my hope that commissions such as yours and the boards of Westfield, who will be tasked with reviewing this project, will do their due diligence and be willing to listen to the concerns of the folks you're hearing tonight who know and care about protecting this area. I have mentioned this or made this statement to the people from data center who were there giving their spiel for their 121A application, and also for their site plan approval at the planning board, which I thought both the planning board and the city council, which you mentioned, has already approved parts of this, that they rushed through this too quickly without giving due diligence to the public. Those public hearings had left a lot to be desired, because I said to them, those Service Star Realties Incorporation or LLG, whatever they are, is that we don't want them to come in here and be an invasive species in this area and do more harm than good to what we already have up here. So I thank you very much for the time to speak, and I'm waiting to listen to the rest of the group that's here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Connie Adams.
Sure. Hold on just a second. So I'm going to share a document with you. But before I start, I'm just going to say one of the things that I hope that I can hold on to is the fact that I have a conservation commission that is doing its job, is really doing its job to protect our natural resources. I can't tell you how distressed I get when all sorts of things happen that are really against our maintenance of our natural resources, because they're so important. I mean, they're so important now more than ever. And I think that you guys really have a responsibility to protect our natural resources. Your job is not to figure out ways for businesses and everybody else to come in and figure out a way to get around the natural resource requirements. I know that's probably what you're under pressure to do. And I understand that that can be hard. But now I'm going to share some of the ideas for why I think, let's see if I can find, oh, here we go.
Before you do that.
Here we go. Okay.
Before you do that, let me know, I'd like to tell you that no one's come to us to get around any kind of regulations.
Good. I'm thrilled
to
hear that.
All right, thank you.
I'm thrilled. Makes me so happy. Thank you very much. So, one of the things that I think is so important, Westfield, was early in its, founding, when it was just a walled city of trappers, was an area known that for its rivers and its wetlands, and Armbrook was one of those rivers. And we're looking now at a development that's going to potentially compromise Armbrook and the wetlands it's surrounded by. And wetlands are very important. And one of the things that the Wetlands Conservation, organization of the state of Massachusetts says is why wetlands are so important. Wetlands are important because they protect our public and private water supplies. That's really, for you guys, that must be such an important issue. We have polluted waterways. Our aquifer in the center of Westfield has been polluted by PFAs. We have another aquifer in the north end of town that so far, I'm crossing my fingers here, is so far it's not polluted. We don't want to do anything to compromise that. We want to protect our groundwater supply. Okay? So there's a lot of reasons to protect wetlands. And Armbrook is a wetland, and it's in the area of this data center. And I can't imagine why anybody thinks doing a development in an area on top of the wetlands and the aquifer is a good idea. So there's a lot of people who are trying to figure out ways to make it okay. I think your job as the Conservation Commission is to figure out ways why it might not be okay. I don't think your job, I really don't think your job is to figure out ways to make it okay. You should be figuring out ways why it's better to protect the wetlands. So there's a lot of reasons to protect wetlands. Flood control and storm damage. Do you guys realize that we've got this big project going on to renovate the Armbrook Dam? And the Armbrook Dam, all their calculations are based on a certain amount of impervious surfaces that this data center are just going to blast out. If we continue having the rain events that we've been having, it's going to actually blow up the calculations they're making for that dam. Does anybody think about the long term in Westfield? Do you think about the fact that if you build the data center, you build all these impervious surfaces, all of a sudden the equations they've used to estimate the feasibility of that dam are no longer going to be enforced? Has anybody thought about that? Okay, so the other thing is that, we've got this aquifer that's sitting under the entire Northwest Field area. So I can attest to the fact that right now the water is clean because my well actually drills down to that aquifer and my water's clean. No PFAs, no nothing. But why would we endanger that aquifer? Sometimes you guys, I just don't understand where anybody's coming from. Why would you put that at risk? Because we have, a business proposal that actually is not going to do any good for us financially. Not to talk about that. But, really, you're looking at a proposal that's actually going to compromise the aquifer. So it prevents pollution, they're gonna pave over all this, wetlands absorption area. We're gonna have new impervious surfaces. They're gonna route to some, unknown. Sorry, I get a little bit emotional. I don't mean to. Okay.
Yes,
plus the wildlife habitat, you guys. I mean, I have not only do I have the Manham River on my property, but I have the Brickyard Brook. So the Armbrook River actually flows in a different direction. Doesn't feed into me initially, but if you guys build up all the land and blacktop everything, it's all going to flow into the Brickyard Brook again, and it's going to kill the amphibians. We have freshwater shrimp. Have you ever heard about that? No. And then so they have, my understanding is there's a turtle relocation plan. You know, turtles do not relocate well. You know, so yes, I applaud them for deciding they had to do that, but I really don't think that it's going to really do much to preserve our amphibians, because it's not just turtles. It's toads, it's salamanders, it's all sorts of wildlife. And the ecosystems that we are trying to preserve require a whole ecosystem. And this data center is going to eliminate vast acres of potential environment for all these many wildlife, you know, biological entities. And I think it's tragic, just tragic. And I can only want to, I want to appeal to you guys as being concerned conservationists, and to really think about what you're trying to do. This is not a great thing for Westfield. And I don't know how, I don't really know how to appeal to you otherwise, other than to just, you know, emote out to you as best I can that this is really important, and that I really want you to think about what your job is. And not only that, but it's not just you.
Well, thank you. We have run out of time. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
But no, we appreciate your comments, and you know, again, we don't know what they're planning because they haven't presented anything to us. So it's hard for us to make comments on things that we haven't seen.
May I say one more thing?
Yes.
Okay. So when they do present to you, I would hope that you would advocate on behalf of natural resources and the best thing for Westfield, not the best thing for business.
I think that's what we always do. Thank you very much. Okay. Amy Beluso, do you have a few comments? I guess not.
No, she's there.
This is Nick Beluso. I'm going to speak on behalf of my wife. So yeah, we just wanted to express our concern to ensure that this committee and other committees within the city are taking due diligence to really understand the long-term effects of the environment and the residents caused by this data center build out, in addition to all the reasons that have already been mentioned. I mean, I was born and raised in the town. I grew up in the north side. I remember walking through the meadows that were once Wings Farm, all these areas that are now, part of the CNS wholesale distribution center, all of those areas. So for sure, I've seen over the years, the wetlands in that area continue to shrink. I've seen a lot of the wildlife continue to get corralled into smaller and smaller spaces. And this is something that we really need to think about carefully as time goes on. You know, we're concerned, and as we should be, and I completely support the committee for being concerned about things like a resident on Park Street wanting to cut down a tree that wasn't necessary. We're talking about 155 acres here. So I think we just really need to be careful about that. In addition, I just wanted to point out that the data centers are not really the green solution that they've been sold to the residents of Westfield as. In fact, right now they're in the spotlight around the world as significant contributors to climate change and environmental degradation. They use huge amounts, alarming amounts of power and energy consumption, with around 40% of that usage going into cooling. But in addition to the straight power and carbon footprint that's affected by that, they also have uncommonly high water usage. And this entire build out, for example, is calling for 28,000 gallons of water per week. And this is in a city where we already have a water crisis. I think we need to be very concerned about water usage in this area. And I don't see this particular build out looking to the future like some of the larger data companies are, such as Microsoft, Google, and Facebook, where you have plants that are committing to being actually water positive by 2030, or being carbon negative by 2030 also. So we really need to push businesses coming into the city to start to think a little bit more heavily about their environmental impact on the area. I just also wanted to point out that in addition to water and power, there's also battery usage and disposal. There's coolant additives that can be highly toxic and deplete the ozone, cleaning material usage and disposal, diesel fuel usage and storage. I mean, we're talking about generators on the full build out that would essentially, in order to run the cycles so that they can make sure that the generators were ready during a power outage, they're basically looking at the equivalent of a single generator running wide open throttle 24/7. Working at a company that has a generator that runs for an hour a week, I can tell you it's pretty loud when you're nearby. And I think that could affect the surrounding communities and the wildlife involved there. We also need to be thinking about light pollution for surrounding residents and also the ecosystem. There's obviously, you probably know more than I do about how much light pollution can affect animals in the area. Also, electronic waste. Currently, the servers are typically replaced every 3 to 5 years. So we need to think about where all of those servers with, potentially heavy metals and other toxic parts are going. And finally, of course, fire suppression systems, right, which are big on our target here in Westfield, since they often contain immeasurable quantities and types of PFAS materials.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sure, once if we do get a proposal from from this group, there'll be plenty of time for people to make comments again as well. But I appreciate your expressing your views at this early juncture.
Thanks for the opportunity.
I think we all, David, I think you're speaking for all of the commissioners. Thank you for the feedback. Thank you for getting my brain started thinking a little bit about this project. So when it does come before us, perhaps we can mitigate it properly.
All right, thank you. Okay, item 7, minutes from November 9, 2021. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any additions or corrections? Seeing none, all in favor, Bob?
Speak. And to
Bob, you need to unmute. Unmute so you can vote.
Bob, you need to buy a new computer.
well,
I had muted him by accident, so I just tried to unmute him, but I can't. Maybe he can put his hand up.
Okay. Yeah, right. Okay, thank you. All right, he voted. All right, Jim. Okay. Jim.
Yep.
Carl.
Yes.
Tom.
I'll vote yes.
Alex.
I'm going to abstain. I wasn't here.
Pardon?
Yes.
What was that, Alex?
Yeah.
I'm going to abstain. I wasn't present for that meeting.
Okay.
I don't
All
believe.
right, thank you. All right, item 8, commission discussion, regulations and procedures. Anything, Meredith?
Or for the commission, I don't have anything in that.
Okay. Item B, wetlands ordinance. Again, the ordinance went before the city council this evening. It'll probably then be put to one or two subcommittees for discussion. And then hopefully it'll get back to the council and up to the mayor to have him sign it. So it's on the way.
Yeah, so maybe we should kind of, I just wanted to give the commission a pat on the back because we do our best to protect natural resources throughout the city. It's not like we're proposing the data center project or any other projects. We're just trying to operate under the Wetlands Protection Act, and by codifying our 50-foot no disturb zone in the bylaw. I just think that's, we're doing all we can under state and local law to protect resources in the city. And I want to say thank you to the commission for doing that and volunteering. Let's not forget, you guys are volunteers. You volunteer a lot of time to protect resources, and I appreciate all the concerned citizens. But we are doing our best under the laws that we are enforcing. So anyways, I was thrilled that the ordinance went to city council tonight. Yes. So thanks everyone for helping get that in.
All right.
Thank you.
As part of that, can we remove the tree replacement policy from the ordinance as recommended by the city attorney? But I would like to get that, at least voted on by the commission so we could stick it on our webpage and, as a policy that we would follow. Is it in its final form, Meredith, or do you need some more changes to it?
I lost track of it. Let me see if I have it here. We had kind of gone back and forth on what we wanted. And then I just took it out. Sorry, I'm trying to find it here. I think it's mostly in the final form. I could send it around, or I think I wanted to just beef it up a little bit, but generally I think we could kind of come to an agreement on what we wanted. Do you want me to pull it up? I do have it here. Quickly.
Chair, I think per discussion earlier, I don't think we ended up defining tree in the ordinance, but it would be appropriate to define it in the policy as policies for replacement of those trees. I'm pretty sure there's an email thread where we basically all decided we were comfortable with a definition, or at least it was an email that was put together and then discussed during discussion at a meeting.
Yeah, we absolutely did that. Yep.
I mean, that, if Meredith's got to make a few tweaks and kind of leave us with a document to vote on the 14th to adopt, which would probably be fine because this can't really be ahead of the ordinance anyway.
Right.
And we could insert that definition as well, just so it's very clear what we mean by tree.
Okay. All right. So we'll maybe she can, send out the latest draft. People that can comment about it and get it back. And then we can vote on it at our next meeting. All right. Item C, invasive species management plan for Petoniac property. Again, Meredith and I and a member of the Audubon staff from Boston walked this property a few days ago. And part of it is a field that's slowly being encroached by a lot of invasives, bittersweet, but also wet pine saplings as well. And Meredith procured some grant money for us, $1,200, that we could use to work on this plot and keep it as a field. So what we were talking about is perhaps having it mowed before the snow comes, and also using a brush hog to, chew up that bittersweet and also the small pine saplings, and then use some of the money to hire somebody to write up a maintenance plan for this property. Again, it's a city-owned property from the Petoniac family, but it's managed by us and the Audubon Society together. And the Audubon person who was with us said, that would be, an acceptable idea is to mow the field and get rid of some of those smaller pine saplings, and then work on a plan to maintain it and to try to eradicate the bittersweet finally, instead of having to mow it all the time. So that's our suggestion. Any comments?
I think it's a great idea, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to mention that I think, I wonder if contacting Lauren DiCarlo over at Westfield State might be a good thing. She has some experience, is in fact doing something right now with some invasives removal along a piece of property along Route 20 in Westfield. So that she might be a good resource on how to plan that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we walked that with her. I remember walking that with her last year or the year before. Yep.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I think, David, you mentioned that when we were out there, and I completely forgot.
I just couldn't remember her name. So.
Yeah, and that's an awesome idea, and I will definitely reach out to her. Who knows? Maybe one of her students wants to do a little side project or a little extra credit or something. Write a little plan. I mean, they filed a notice of intent, so obviously they've done some research on.
I mean, they could do it for their senior thesis or their senior project.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, long-term monitoring project right there.
Well, that's what someone did for the river, all the burning bushes down at the river. That was a senior student's project.
Oh, right. And that's still going on, right? Is that the same area?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Does the $1,200 buy us the mowing and the brush hogging?
Yeah, the city would do it.
No, we got $1,200, right? I guess I'm just interested from Bob's perspective if that's going to be sufficient funds.
I believe
don't know.
so. Didn't we have a discussion with somebody from the city and they thought that there was enough money or whatever the individual that mows for the city, he was comfortable with the amount, I believe, Meredith, you recall that?
Yeah, I was trying to, I know. I think that's kind of the amount. I think I asked for that amount because we had met with, the contractor and DPW, and wasn't that the number he gave us? I mean, I must have got that number from somewhere.
They gave us a certain amount of how much an hour he gets, and I think he felt that within that time frame that there was plenty of money.
Okay, well, good.
Okay, so I'll try to get that set up.
Let's see if we can do that.
Well, I'll ask Lauren first if mowing a field of bittersweet. I mean, Bob, didn't you say that it was not a good idea to mow it right now?
Well, not really, but something should be done.
There's a lot of it out there.
How long can we keep the money for? Yeah, anything's going to be helpful, Meredith, at this point. But she was very good on the river. She really had a good plan. I was really impressed with what they were going to do. So I got to go with what Carl said.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to reach out to her and see if I can, maybe I can just ask her that question. Like, do you think we should mow it this year and then treat it? I was thinking mow it this year and then treat it in the spring.
Yeah. Or she may want students that want to hand pull. Remember they were going to do most of the hand pulling down there?
But that was barberry, not bittersweet.
Bittersweet. That's tough stuff.
They still do detention in college, so that'll be the detention, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah, no? Oh, man. Maybe every time a Westfield State PD breaks up a party, they got to send a designated person down for some bittersweet pulling.
Maybe somebody wants an A.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
You fail to wear your mask on campus in a building.
That's right. Down to the bittersweet with you.
That's right.
All right. So,
Meredith, can we use the $1,200 and have a kick-ass Christmas party?
No.
I remember I really
you're
wanted
sitting
to
on
have
a tractor, Tom.
I know.
with my eggnog in my hand.
That's right.
Okay. So we'll contact Lauren at the college and then make our decision after that. Okay. Again, we have that money for this fiscal year, which is until next June.
Yeah.
But I don't know when the best time, to get rid of that bittersweet would be now, before winter or in the springtime. So.
Again, I think if we did something, it's better than nothing at this point, and then reassess what happens after we talk to that Lauren from Westfield State.
Right.
We want the saplings.
Yeah, remember how the vines were climbing those trees? if we could, just sever them at the ground, that would probably save. I remember that one evergreen tree right in the center of the field.
Oh yeah, we see that.
A cedar, yeah. Be worth saving.
Yeah, that's covered with vines.
Yeah, it's really bad. I have photos.
I have a saw.
That's what I was saying. We should just clip. Does anyone have giant like lock cutters or those loppers? Does anyone have loppers?
I'm sure Bob has a pair.
Bob,
I might have one pair.
Bob's
He's got a whole garage full
here
of
tonight.
Yeah,
Hey, Bob, it must be the new computer you have.
Yeah, I'm just myself in trouble.
I mean,
We
does
could have
anyone
our
want
own
to
field
meet and
trip.
do a little invasive control party? We could have apple
Yeah.
cider or eggnog and cut some. That's what I wanted to do last year, but then, permitting keeps getting in the way of this fun stuff.
Okay. All right, item D,
I'll look
coordinator
into that.
position.
All right, I'm gonna go stop my
pardon?
video.
Do you have some good news on item D, Mr. Chairman?
Well, I'm meeting with the personnel director next week
Oh, boy.
Um,
Okay.
to get the ball rolling. That's all I have at the moment.
Okay.
So David, we haven't advertised. No one knows we're looking for a new person.
Well, from my understanding, you can't do that until the post is vacant.
Really?
Yeah, it's not
Really?
vacant. Yeah.
That's a pretty interesting rule.
I mean, we didn't advertise for when Karen left until after she had gone.
Yeah, but look what
That's
happened.
not- Really? That seems so anti-proactive in any position with the city.
Okay.
Don't
Well,
walk your
that-
horse across Boston Common either, Jim. I mean,
Yeah.
geez, this is Massachusetts.
All right, we'll get there. We'll get there. Okay. All right, item 9.
So moved.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
second.
You second?
Sure.
Any-
Were you able to adjourn last meeting without me here?
I think we did.
That's why we're all tired. We're still here.
You're still here.
Well, I guess before that, we should acknowledge Meredith's contributions to the city and the commission and thank her
Hear,
many times
hear.
over for all the work she's done. So I'll be sorely missed.
Absolutely.
I know,
I
and there's
wanna
still so much to do.
Thank you. Well, you were a great asset to the department. Site visits I was on with you. You were always well prepared, really poised and articulate. You really explained the laws and the regulations very well. And so that everybody was on the same page. And I thought that was pretty important. And but no, you always did a good job. And I'm gonna miss you personally working with us. So we can only offer you the best.
Yeah, hear, hear.
Thanks,
It
Jim.
was fun to watch you grow into this job, Meredith, which you definitely did. I'm sure wherever you're headed, whatever your future is, it will be a good one.
Thanks, Tom.
You're
I
welcome.
hope so.
Well,
Not easy job.
yeah, well, you started with a trial by fire with our friends on East Mountain Road. that was tough.
You got to learn quick around here.
Yeah.
You did. That was complex. Still is.
Yeah, still is. It's going to be probably for a long time, but yeah, I'm trying to do as much as I can before my last day. It's just time, the short week, and everything's closing in on me, but I will get as much done as I can.
Praise the gods that Colleen
Thank you.
remains with us
I
and will
know.
remain with us during this transition.
All righty. Well, thank you again. And
You guys didn't finish the vote to
I
close
know.
the public. See, thank God for Colleen.
Making sure.
We'll
Oh, no,
never
I remember
adjourn.
this time, Colleen. So who made the motion?
I made the
Alex
motion
made the
too early.
motion.
Yeah,
Alex made the motion. Carl seconded.
okay, all in favor. Bob,
Yes.
Carl,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Alex.
I will say yes, but I made the
Tom.
motion so fast because I thought maybe if we bypass saying thank you to Meredith, she couldn't leave. So
All right.
yes.
And Cliff.
Yes.
Yes, I'll say yes. All right. Thank you. Have a great Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy
Good night.
Thanksgiving.